Every single year it's the same story. The weather begins to warm, the soil holds a little more moisture, and almost overnight, the slugs and snails arrive, and with them comes the advice: eggshells, coffee grounds, copper tape, beer traps. And if you spend any time online, you'll find people absolutely convinced that their method works. But over the years, I've tried most of them. And if I'm honest, very few have made any real difference. Now, last year, I made a video about using oats. It got a lot of attention and even featured in a Slovakian news article, so truly European. And that's one method that does seem to work, but it raised a bigger question for me. Why do some methods work and others don't? Because there must be a reason. Well, let's take a proper look at slug and snail control, and more importantly, what actually works and why. Slug and snail control is often approached as a collection of tips, but it's better understood as a question of biology. Many commonly suggested methods appear logical, but fail because they don't align with how slugs actually behave. Slugs are driven primarily by moisture, darkness, and chemical signals. They're not easily deterred by texture alone, and they're highly adaptable within the garden environment. Let's begin with eggshells. The theory suggests that sharp fragments will damage the slug's soft body. However, this does not hold up in practice. When exposed to moisture, eggshells soften, and slugs produce a layer of mucus, allowing them to move across rough surfaces. In observation, slugs will cross eggshell barriers without significant hesitation. So while the idea is appealing, it's not a reliable method of control. Coffee grounds are often presented as a more scientific solution. This is based on studies indicating that caffeine can affect slugs. But the concentration of caffeine used in those studies is far higher than what is found in used coffee grounds. In a typical garden setting, the effect is negligible, and slugs frequently move across them without issue. So, while the theory has some scientific grounding, it doesn't translate effectively into practice. Copper barriers function differently. When a slug comes into contact with copper, a mild electrical reaction can occur. This can act as a deterrent, particularly in controlled environments such as pots or raised beds. There's a catch, though, because in open garden conditions, dirt, moisture, and organic matter reduce its effectiveness. So copper can be useful in specific situations, but it shouldn't be relied upon as a primary solution. Beer traps are one of the more established methods. They work by attracting slugs, which then fall into the liquid and drown. This makes them effective at reducing numbers locally. However, they also attract slugs from surrounding areas. This can increase overall activity within the garden. So while they can be part of a strategy, they can also unintentionally contribute to the problem. Oats represent a different type of approach. They're not a barrier, and they're not a deterrent. They are, though, a food source. When slugs consume oats, the material expands within their digestive system. This leads to internal disruption and dehydration. The effect is not immediate, but it is consistent with the biology of the slug, and that's why it tends to be more reliable. The key point is that no single method provides complete control. Effective management comes from combining approaches, reducing excess moisture where possible, limiting hiding places, and encouraging natural predators such as beetles, birds, and amphibians. These factors create balance within the garden, rather than attempting total elimination. In summary, many commonly recommended methods fail because they are based on assumption rather than observation. Those that work do so because they align with the biological realities of the slug. And once this is understood, it becomes easier to choose methods that are both practical and effective. For more information on this or any other pest disease or plant health issues, in fact, any gardening questions you might have, you can find a load of help by using the Your Growing Companion app. It's an amazing resource. And additional features include sowing calendars, succession planting tips, so your beds are never empty, and weather alerts as well. And all for less than the price of a bag of peat-free compost. I will put a link for you in the description. Until next time, thanks for watching, and do ask me any questions you have. I'd be happy to help.